Chapter 11 of 2 Years in the Forbidden City. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by J.C. Guan. 2 Years in the Forbidden City by Princess De. Chapter 11. Our Costumes. The next day we got up earlier than usual and dressed ourselves in our new gowns. I could not believe my own eyes, and asked several times whether that was myself or not. I found that I looked all right, although I hadn't been wearing this sort of costume for so long. They seemed to think that we would look awkward. Our own eunuchs were delighted to see us dressed that way. The young Empress came in while passing our rooms on her way to the Empress Dowager's place, and waited for us to go with her. When we arrived at the waiting room, a lot of people came in and looked at us, and talked so much about us that it made me feel rather shy. Everyone told us that we looked much better that way than in foreign clothes, except the Emperor Kwang-hsu. He said to me, "I think your Parisian gowns are far prettier than this." I smiled and said nothing. He shook his head at me, and went into Her Majesty's bedroom. Li Lien-ying came and saw us, and was very much excited, and told me to go and see Her Majesty at once. I told him that everyone was looking at us, as if we were curios. He said, "You don't know how nice you look now, and I wish that you would not wear foreign clothes at all." Her Majesty laughed so loud when she saw us that it made me uncomfortable, for I was afraid we looked unnatural to her. She said, "I cannot believe you are the same girls. Just look at yourselves in this looking-glass." She pointed to a large mirror in her room. "See how you have changed. I feel that you belong to me now. I must have some more gowns made for you." Then Li Lien-ying said that the 24th would be the first day of the summer. On that day everyone would begin to wear jade hairpins instead of gold, and we had none. Her Majesty said to Li, "I am very glad you told me that. I must give them each a jade hairpin after having asked them to change into Manchu clothes." Li went away and came back with a box of hairpins of pure green jade. Her Majesty took a beautiful one and handed it to my mother, and told her that that pin had been worn by 3 empresses. She took 2 very nice ones and gave one to me and one to my sister. She told us that these 2 were a pair, and that the other Empress Dowager, the East Empress Dowager, used to wear one, and that the other was worn by herself when she was young. I felt ashamed that Her Majesty had given us so many presents and I had done nothing for her in any way. However, we thanked her most sincerely, and showed our appreciation. She said, "I look upon you as my own people, and the gowns I have made for you are the very best. I have also decided to let you wear the full court dress, the same as one of the princesses. You are my court lady, so you are equally ranked here." Li stood there behind her, and made a sign to us to kowtow to her. I cannot remember how many times I kowtowed that day. The headdress was very heavy, and I was not quite used to it. I was afraid it might fall off. Her Majesty also said that she would make our rank known to the court on her 70th birthday. I will explain this. On every decade from the time of her birth, Her Majesty used to give special favors to anyone she liked, or to anyone who had done something for her, and had been useful to her. She could promote anyone at any time, but on these occasions it was something special. The young Empress congratulated us, and said that Her Majesty was looking for a young prince to marry me. She was also very fond of teasing. I wrote to my father about all the favors that had been given to me. He wrote me he hoped that I deserved them all, and that I must do all I could to be useful and loyal to Her Majesty as long as she lived. I was very happy. Life was perfectly lovely at the Palace. Her Majesty was always nice and kind. I noted the difference in the way she had treated us since, as she said, we had become Manchu once more. One day Her Majesty asked me while we were sailing on the lake in the moonlight if I wanted to go to Europe any more. It was a superb night, and several boats were sailing behind us. In one boat several eunuchs were playing a kind of sweet music on the flute and an instrument very much like the mandolin, called yueqin, small harp like the shape of the moon, with Her Majesty singing very softly to herself. I told her I was satisfied to be with her, and did not wish to go anywhere at all. She said that I must learn to sing poetry, and that she would teach me every day. I told her that my father had made me study all kinds of poetry, and I had composed some myself. She looked surprised and said, "Why didn't you tell me that before? I love poems. You must read to me sometimes. I have many books here containing poems of different dynasties." I told her that my knowledge of Chinese literature was very limited, and I dared not let her see how little I knew. I had only studied 8 years. Her Majesty told me that the Young Empress and herself were the only ones who were familiar with Chinese literature at the court. She told me that she tried to teach the court ladies to read and write some time ago, but having found them so lazy, she gave them up. My father told me to be very careful not to show them what I could do until I was asked, so I kept it to myself. After they found this out, some of the court ladies were very disagreeable to me, and this went on day after day. Except for this unpleasantness, the 4th moon passed very agreeably. The first day of the 5th moon was a busy day for us all, as from the 1st to the 5th of the 5th moon was the festival of 5 poisonous insects, which I will explain later, also called the Dragon Boat Festival. All the viceroys, governors, and high officials, beside the imperial family, court ladies and eunuchs, all offer Her Majesty beautiful presents. I never saw such a lot of things as came into the palace during this festival. Each person who sent in presents must accompany them with a sheet of yellow paper, and at the right lower corner the sender's name must be written, and also the word "Gui Jin," meaning to present their gifts kneeling, also to write what the presents were. The eunuchs took big yellow trays to bring them in. During these 5 days everyone was busy, especially the eunuchs. I could not count just how many people sent presents to Her Majesty. The presents were of every kind, such as things for the household, silks and jewelry of all kinds and description. A large part of the presents were foreign goods of the ordinary kind. I also saw lovely carved thrones and embroideries. Her Majesty ordered them to be put away and the foreign things to be kept in her palace, for those were new to her. The 3rd day of the 5th moon was the day for just the people of the palace to make presents. It was a most beautiful sight to see. We were busy all night making preparations, and had to go and help the Young Empress. The next morning we placed our presents in the big courtyard in these big yellow trays. The Young Empress had her trays in the first row. The presents from the Young Empress to the Empress Dowager were made by her own hands. There were 10 pairs of shoes, silk embroidered handkerchiefs, little bags for betel nuts, and bags for tobacco, all exquisitely done. The secondary wife of the Emperor Kwang-Hsu presented about the same to Her Majesty. The court ladies' presents were all different, as we could ask permission to go out shopping before the feast. We could not go out together, for 1 or 2 of us must be there at all times, and it was very exciting to tell each other what we had bought. We ourselves did not ask permission to go out of the palace, for we had our presents ready long before. Everyone seemed to be talking about presents, whether Her Majesty would like them or not. My mother, my sister and myself had written to Paris to get some lovely French brocades, 1 set of furniture, French Empire style. We had learned Her Majesty's taste already during our short stay there, so, including those presents, we also gave her fans, perfumes, soaps and some other French novelties. Her Majesty always looked over everything, and noticed some of the presents were of very poor quality, and wanted to know the sender's name. The eunuchs and servant girls also made her good and